Hi, I'm miltonchang of Bonsai Heirloom. This is the second week of November. Notice how the leaves are turning yellow. In really a week or two, the leaves will be dropped, and which is telling you that it's perfect time to start repotting, because when there's not much leaves, the trees are not losing much moisture, so that you can do drastic root pruning while you're repotting them, and that will be just fine. Let's keep that in mind. Now's the time to repot. You can cut back on your fertilizer and watering. When spring comes around in March or April, they will just be booming with a lot of greens. So the first question was that, am I air layering the tree outside the tree, which you see I was really doing quite a few air layering. This tree is actually a beautiful tree. In about May, it will be full of these beautiful proteus-like flowers. It's yellow and red, and I like them very much to make into a hedge, so I air layer them. Now the mistake I made is that I tried to use the mix that I recommended for cuttings, which is 1 part vermiculite, 1 part perlite, which is very good for cuttings. But because I ran out of sphagnum moss, so I thought I used that, but it didn't work really well because it's so loose that when the root calloused, it doesn't get in touch with the soil mix very much, so it doesn't grow roots. So I would have to redo it. So from the lesson that I share with you is when you air layer a tree, use either the sphagnum moss that you get from out of orchid pots, or you use a mixture of half soil and half peat moss. I think that would do well, and that you should see your trees root out fairly quickly, 4 to 6 weeks, and go from there. This is really a tough question, which is I found my elm tree has red dots on the new growth on the leaves, and then soon they die back. And I Googled, it's the only disease I can think of for elm is Dutch elm disease, and this is occurring according to the reader, the audience, that it's on a Chinese elm tree. Well, I found the Chinese elm tree really is not susceptible to Dutch elm disease, which the American elm tree is. And that's why we now have substituted American elm with the Chinese elm all over the country, and they are not susceptible to the Dutch elm disease. Now, what happened is that there are a lot of cross-pollination, that some of the Chinese elm are no longer pure Chinese, so to speak. And so that could be the reason, but this is actually quite alarming because there's no cure for Dutch elm disease. So I encourage to burn the tree, destroy in a way it doesn't contaminate the rest of the plants in your community. So that's what I'll do. I'm not sure that's Dutch elm disease, but it's better be careful than sorry. The next one is that I bought a really nice cork elm, cork pine, and they are growing really nicely. So what should I do when the buds are growing? How do I shorten the leaves? Well, what happens, you can see it start with a little bud, and then it come out as a needle with the little stubs growing in. That's the pine needles to be. So when it gets to, let's say, about this length, you cut it here, then the buds will come out here, and it will send out the needle, the candle again, and then you cut it again when the candle becomes, at that point you have multiple candles and divide into branch, and you shape it to shape the tree, and also cut it back to shorten the needle. And so when the next flush of needle comes, it'll be compact and almost the same length, and then you cut off the needle, the rest of the growth when it gets to that pine needle length. And so you'll have pine needle at the end, and then the buds will come out the next season to repeat the process. After 2 or 3 times, twice a year, let's say, or after a couple of years, 3 or 4 times, you have pretty uniform short needles and pretty dense, good-looking pine trees. So here are the 3 pine trees I did to shorten the needle. And you see what happened is that when I cut it here, this candle was growing and I cut it, and then it came out, these 3 came out, and I cut it again, and then these are starting to bud out. So there will be 3 or so candles grow out, and I can cut it again. And so it would then, ramification would come out very quickly. So this is a small pine tree that I did. You can see it's budding out everywhere. We did that only about 2 months ago. This one I did a lot more extensive cutting, and I cut back like here, here, here. They're all popping out now. You see, this comes out and buds again. So for example, I'll probably cut out this middle one because I don't need something to keep going straight, and then this will be branching. So you can see how quickly the ramification happens when you do that. And I should really do them at the same time so that I can control the length of the needle or the candle so that they will all become uniform in length. So you can see we did these 3 about 2 months ago. Each one is making tremendous amount of progress. So pine is not as difficult as it seems either. And in the meantime, I've been fooling around with this to accentuate this and make this coming down and so forth. So, maybe like move this one over gradually to improve. So there are a lot of opportunity to improve gradually over time. So that's what you do with pine trees. The next set of questions is about propagation and cutting. One of the questions is that the boxwood that you cut up, you think the tree can pop out of the roots? Well, I don't think so, because I don't see boxwood sucker very much. The tip is that when a tree suckers, then you can do root cutting. So like elm tree, if you cut the main trunk, there'll be a whole bunch of trees come out from the bottom suckering. And that's a good indication. Elm, you can do root cutting. So when you repot your trees, elm tree, be sure to save all the roots and plant them and expose the tops, the top of the roots so that it would shoot out and you have a new tree. It's actually a very effective way of propagating elm. So would you take the trees that the leaves, the branches you cut back, will you do cuttings? Yes, I do oftentimes. I've shown that many times on my video. Please check out the video shown below so that you can go find it and look at it. And then the other question is that what is a good year to do cutting? Well, there are 2 kinds of cutting, basically. One is a really softwood cutting, which you can do, but in the sense that the branch is very tender. The ones that you can do all year round is a semi-hard cutting. That means let's say it grown a month or 2, so that it's somewhat hard, but it's not hard, very hard. And you take this cutting any time of the year, and it will basically root in 4 to 6 weeks. It's really quick. Of course, you will dip it to root tone. And then the hardwood cutting is the hardened wood. The branch could be as big as a pencil size, and then you cut it. I think the best time to cut it is from late fall to early spring, and then you put it in sand. It will take much longer to root, but then when spring comes out, you gradually see new growth. So cutting is a very easy way to propagate maples, elm, and zelkova, and trees of that nature. So let me elaborate a little bit on softwood cutting and hardwood cutting and semi-hardwood cutting. So, for example, this is really a new growth. You see how tender it is? It's all green. And if I cut it here and put it down as a cutting, this is a California juniper. That is a softwood cutting. And it should root out. I haven't done California juniper, so I don't really know how quickly it will root out, but I suspect it's fairly quickly and it's fairly easily at this time of the year. Usually that's in the springtime, but this tree happened to be growing vigorously because I repotted it. And here is and of course, hardwood cutting would be like right here. You can see this is brown, this is green. So if I cut it here, this will be, take a cutting about this length. This will be hardwood cutting and that would be softwood cutting, and both can be planted. Now, more often, let's do a deciduous tree. This is a Catlin elm cutting. I just was training one of my bonsai. And you can see the tip is already hardened, but let's pretend this to be softwood. And then you can cut it and make it into two cuttings. And you can, for example, take this part and make it into a semi-hardwood cutting. And you can just plant the whole thing by putting some rooting hormone there. Or you can take one like this and cut off the rest of the branches. So this would be a hardwood cutting. I would probably scar it and put rooting hormone, and you put it to soil to this level, and it will grow probably by springtime for sure. So propagating bonsai by cutting is really easy, and it's very rewarding. So you can increase the collection, your prized collections. The next set of questions about dealing with roots. One is that, what do you mean by root cutting? Well, when you have a bonsai in a pot, roots tend to grow very fast towards the edge, and then they start to curl around the bottom of the pot. And that's called root bound because eventually becomes a solid, non-penetrable wood. That's not desirable for the pot to cause root bound. So what you do is you would take it out of the pot when you repot it in the fall, and you cut back a layer and all around, and then you put it back to grow. So then you're forcing fibrous root to grow. Now, root cutting is a technique I learned from the nursery trade, where they will sometimes put a netting kind of a pot to put trees in. So when they grow, the roots will try to penetrate the pores, and then get by girdle by the net, the mesh, and that induces fibrous roots within the pot. And I found that's a very effective way by putting a lining of mosquito screen at the bottom, which you can see the following video. That's what I do in almost repotting, and that prevents it from the curling. And I can almost never have to repot my tree, maybe every 10 years or so, and that saves a lot of work, and the tree does just fine, which is quite amazing. So root pruning is a good method I've been promoting. I don't think it was very much known in the bonsai community. That's what the community, Bonsai Heirloom community, to share these good practices. And then the other question is to put a rock or a tile under the bottom of a tree. Well, there's no point in putting a tile under a bonsai per se, a tree per se, because the roots are already spread out. But if you just had a cutting, have a long tap root, and you cut it, and there are a few side roots, fiber roots coming out, if you put a tile underneath the cut, that will force all the roots to go sideways to spread out the pot's more evenly. So that is a good practice. So thank you very much for pointing that out to our audience. The other question is, terracotta tend to look really ugly because the salt in the water tend to seep out and make the pot look white. Well, you can scrub it or simply put it in a plastic nursery pot. I think that's the easiest because that retains moisture a little better and it doesn't break, and you don't have to water it quite as often. So that's what I recommend. But each time when you pot a tree, be sure to firm it. The mixture is almost not very critical in a growing pot, but always try to firm it so the water doesn't run out right away. And this person is germinating jacaranda seeds. Jacaranda is a very beautiful tree. The leaves are pretty. It's actually a somewhat tropical tree. You see that a lot in Hawaii and tropical countries. And California now also have a lot of these trees. They're beautiful, beautiful blue flower. Now, I have not done that because I think of that as a big tree. But why not? Try it and tell us how to work out to share with the rest of our audience. But there's a new recently introduced variety you can buy from Monrovia and so forth. It's a dwarf miniature jacaranda. I think it grows pretty big as well, but not quite as vigorous. So it's probably a better tree for bonsai. So that's all the three grouping of questions I have this week. I hope to make my Q&A interesting so you will revisit us every week to get new ideas to improve your bonsai technique. But I also want to mention that this week we are going to announce a giveaway of bonsai trees, and to celebrate our 100,000 subscriber milestone. We did it in 1 year. Thank you very much for your interest. I hope you continue to view my video and encourage your friend to become subscribers and share ideas with feedback with me so I can improve my presentation and share more good ideas, good practices, best practices with our colleagues. So with that in mind, then thank you very much. Like my video if you found it useful. I need the encouragement and the brownie points. And click the website so that we'll put you on a mailing list for future announcements, such as the giveaway. So thank you very much and stay tuned. See you next week.